Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. I am the CHALL, and today, Chall Chats, Manchester United 0, Arsenal 1. Arsenal, come what may on Tuesday, will take the title race to the final day with a 3+ goal difference over City and, of course, over by a point. However, City played Tottenham on Tuesday, which we will be reviewing here on Chall Chats, along with the Villa-Liverpool game tomorrow as well. So not only will it be a conclusion to the title race, there'll also be a conclusion to the Champions League race this week. So before we get started, make sure you do like, comment, subscribe. Click the notification bell so you never miss another YouTube video. We're on the road to 3,000 subscribers and 500,000 views. Let's get there as soon as possible, please. And for now, let's get into this game as Arsenal take the title race to the final day with a 1-0 win at Old Trafford. So let's start, as always, with the starting lineups. So, of course, we'll start, as always, with the away side, which was Arsenal. They set up in their usual 4-3-3. Raya in goal, a back four of Ben White, William Saliba, we'll talk about him in a moment, Gabriel Magalhaes and Tomiyasu. A midfield of Thomas Partey, Captain Martin Odegaard and Declan Rice. And on the wings, you've got Bukayo Saka, Leandro Trossard, and up front is number 29, Kai Havertz, managed, of course, by Mikel Arteta. Manchester United, managed, at least for the rest of this season, by Erik ten Hag, has lined up in the usual four-back with the midfield three in a 4-2-3-1 varied formation, or even a 4-3-3 at times. So Onana in goal with a back four of Wan-Bissaka, Johnny Evans, Casemiro, we'll talk about him in a second, and Diego Diallo. A midfield containing Amrabat, Mainu, and captain Scott McTominay, with Garnacho and Amad Diallo on the wings. We'll talk about him in a moment. And up front was Rasmus Højlund. As of course, as I said earlier, managed, at least for the rest of this season, by Erik ten Hag. So we're going to kick off with Manchester United's performance, as they were the losers in this game. Now, United worry me. And I'll tell you why the reason United worry me. The reason why United worry me is because, yes, the promise is there's some good future talent in there. The likes of Campbell, who put some great tackles in today when he came on the pitch. Amad Diallo, we'll talk about him a bit more individually later in the video. Garnacho made some great runs, never afraid to take players on. Yes, some of his crosses should have been better. Mainu, of course, in the midfield did well. But for me, United worry me because of some of the experienced players in that squad. Casemiro was disgusting today. And I don't mean any personal disrespect to Casemiro. I thought his performance was disgusting today. The reason why it was disgusting is there was a lack of tracking back. There was a lack of sprinting. There was a lot of just jogging, not sprinting. There were moments where there was an extra touch and there didn't need to be. There was a couple of moments where he shot from far out. There was one moment where he shot from far out and I kind of nearly smashed my setup up because why are you shooting from 30 odd yards when you're 1-0 down? Drive forward, look for runners, notify someone to make the run. Don't just shoot from 30 odd yards out because you can't be bothered. I'm sorry, Casemiro's performance was disgusting today, and I get really angry when I see just someone jogging in a game like this, especially with the history behind Man United Arsenal. I don't give a flying whatever what the situation is currently in the table. Arsenal top, United not even in a race for probably Europe this season. I don't care what the situation is. It's United Arsenal. No matter who you play for, you turn up in that situation. A game like that, you turn up. Casemiro was jogging today. Jogging. And the goal that Arsenal scored really made me angry with Casemiro because if you go back and watch the goal, look at what Casemiro does. Not only does he play him on side, but he just casually jogs backwards, and don't even stick a leg out when Trossard comes into the box. Doesn't help Johnny Evans to cover and press Saka from the wide front. Doesn't stick a leg out when Trossard comes into the box. He literally didn't even stick a leg out the entire time. He literally just jogged back into position after playing him on side, Saka on side, and then just kind of kept eyes on it and just watched the ball go in. Didn't even bother to stick a leg out. That, for me, really makes me angry because that right there is an experienced player on. I bet it's nearly £500,000 a week. I bet it's something around that mark. It's at least a couple of £100,000 a week. Literally do nothing in that entire game before he got subbed off. It was ridiculous today. Casemiro really infuriated me. And if he want that looked like a player that wants to leave in the summer. That looks like a player that's just going through the motions, waiting till the season's done, and then jetting off to Saudi Arabia or somewhere else next summer for his new club. That right there is someone who isn't playing for the badge. That right there is someone who isn't trying for Manchester United Football Club before he leaves. If he is going to leave, you still need to try before you leave. That performance right there, and to be fair, the last few weeks for Casemiro have been nothing short of a disgrace in terms of his performances. I'm not denying he's a nice guy. I'm not denying his experience in the past. I'm not denying his previous experience of winning things. But I'm telling you now, Casemiro, these last few weeks and probably for longer, his performances have been lacklustre, lack of energy, lack of fight, and people say, well, he's at centre back, he's not playing in his usual position. I'm sorry, but if you're a defensive player, you should learn what to do in that position. If you're an experienced player, you should know what to do in that position. Casemiro didn't. And the reason why I pick him out is because he really infuriated me with his lack of energy jogging back into position, playing people on side, not even bothering to stick a leg out to then conceding the goal and just shooting from 40 yards when there's no need to. It just, Casemiro really infuriated me today. He really did. There's a few other players that really infuriated me today as well. You know what? Yeah, I am going to call them out before everyone who supports Casemiro jumps on me back. I am going to call other people out today. Um, I felt Diallo a couple of times slipped up. I think Amrabat slipped up a few times. I thought Wan-Bissaka slipped up a few times. I think McTominay could have done better on a few occasions. Yes, what I will highlight about McTominay is he did make a couple of great forward passes and did make some good runs at times. But there was also times where he gave away stray passes, didn't make the run when needed, held the midfield up, passed it sideways. McTominay is at fault for some of his performance, as is Casemiro, as is Wan-Bissaka, as is Diallo. Like I said, Garnacho, I love the way he takes people on, and I love his pace about him. But some of his crossing today needed to be a hell of a lot better. But obviously, he's a kid. He's going to take time. He's going to learn. Cambuala gave the ball away a couple of times, but I'm not going to go into him too much because, again, he's a kid. People like McTominay, people like Casemiro, people like Diallo, people like Wan-Bissaka, they're experienced players that should be knowing better than that. Onana made some good saves today. I think Onana made some good saves today. The player for me, though, for United, I mean, first of all, Højlund was quite isolated again. Surprise, surprise, barely any service. For me, though, the player that stood out for me for United, and I'm going to share some stats on screen, Amad Diallo. Starts Amad Diallo every possible week if he is not injured. And it sounds like he might be. Because I swear, Amad Diallo has been nothing short of sensational in that game. He played 70 minutes in that match, 45 touches, a 92% accurate pass rate, 2 key passes in there, 1 cross, and 2 accurate long balls. This guy, and you look at his heat map, has been all over the pitch. He's been helping track back to defend. He's been tracking forward. His trickery, his pace, his drive, his energy. He has been light years above at least half of that United squad today. Amad Diallo, for me, really impressed me. And yes, it's an attacking player. Yes, it's an attacking player. But this attacking player really impressed me. And I can only say what I see. It's like Catchphrase hosted by Roy Walker. It's say what you or Stephen Mulhern. It's say what you see. And I see Amad Diallo with his pace, his drive, his energy, and his skill on the ball, and his technique and creative innovation on the ball, and the way he takes people on, like Garnacho did on the opposite wing. The difference was Amad Diallo was a lot more accurate with his chance creation than Garnacho. Amad was a much better winger than Garnacho today purely because of that. Garnacho made some great runs, and his pace is just unbeholden. And when he gets older, there's an opportunity here for Garnacho to really develop him further. But Amad Diallo, for me, just impressed me that much more. Right then, moving on to Arsenal, the team who won today. Arsenal can take the positive of 3 points. They can take the positive out of the fact they lead the title race going into Tottenham versus City on Tuesday. Of course, Villa v Liverpool tomorrow as well. We're covering both games this week on Chall Chats. Obviously, with the top four in the title race in contention for these two particular games, of course, we're going to cover them. For me, with this particular performance from Arsenal, it's a performance where you take the positive of 3 points, you take the result, you take the fact you're top of the league again, but you don't go 100% giddy about it. It wasn't a performance, and yeah, and you know, I get what people are going to say. You know, people are going to say, oh, you know, it's not about performances, it's about results. For me, though, it wasn't a vintage Arsenal performance. It was, don't get me wrong, it was still full of pace. There was still some drive to it. But for me, I felt it was more passive than other Arsenal performances that I've seen this season. Arsenal, for me, again, it's one of them where they can do the job against the United, they can do the job against other big teams, but for me overall this season for Arsenal, you need to do it against the Fulhams, you need to do it against the Lutons more convincingly. Um, Aston Villa away, I think it was, there was a lacklustre result. And again, it's that one result, whether it's Aston Villa or whatever, that one result could have cost you the title. Because, of course, if City beat Tottenham and West Ham, which I think they probably will do, not only does that confirm Champions League for Aston Villa, but that also confirms the title for City on the last day. Arsenal have got Everton. I can't remember who City's got. I'll have to look at that. But Arsenal have got Everton at home on the last day. If City slip up at Tottenham, even by a point, Arsenal get the win, they're champions. And they end the potential four in a row for Guardiola. Arsenal, for me today, were a bit more passive than usual. I think that Partey had a poor game. Yes, he made some. Yes, he was fairly accurate with what he was doing, but he did slip up a couple of times. He did make some bad decisions a few times in that game. I felt that Martinelli, when he came on, lacked chance creation accuracy. He had the pace, he had the drive, he had the fresh leg to replace Trossard, but for me, he just didn't get the chance creation off. I think Jesus didn't do anything when he came on. I felt he was a bit of a passenger when he came on. I could see him trying to run and create things, but again, I just didn't think anything could come off from him. I thought Ben White could have crossed it in a bit better a few times. I felt that Raya did well. I thought he claimed it well quite a few times, made some good saves. I think Saka, again, there was times where he was driving forward and he looked like he could make some great forward runs, which I respect. But I'm not going to sit here and call him Starboy because Saka for me was quite, again, lacklustre in chance creation, a bit like Martinelli, a bit lacklustre. And of course, it is sad to see him go off with that injury. You know, it wasn't the best of landings into that advertisement board. You know, it was an injury sold separately. And for me, Saka really lacked in chance creation, but I do feel bad about him about that injury. And if he's out for the final game of the season, then that could put Arsenal in a very interesting position going into that Everton game next week. Obviously, it's going to be very interesting going into that final day. If I was to pick one player, though, for Arsenal that really stood out for me, it was the man of the match, according to Sky Sports, and that was William Saliba. William Saliba was a defensive linchpin for the entire 90 minutes. The heat map shows exactly how much he was around that pitch, playing the whole 90, 6 clearances, 1 blocked shot, 4 tackles, one last man tackle, just to be very specific there, 99 touches and a 90% accurate pass rate. 4 out of 4 won ground duels, 3 out of 3 won aerial duels. He was a linchpin at the back. He was all over United, pressing them from back to front. He really stood out to me as a proper Kingpin defender. He did his job. He did what he needed to do. He shut United out. And to be fair, that was the one thing here about Arsenal. As soon as they get the goal, United look more expansive in the first half. They look more individual when it comes to their defending rather than a team unit as a defensive unit. So Arsenal were allowed to play through them a lot more. And I felt Arsenal could have been a bit quicker and could have got at them a lot more. But the times that United came forward, especially in the second half, especially towards the end of the second half, for me, Arsenal needed that defence. I think for me, Saliba was the better of the centre backs. I think that Saliba was calm, he was composed, he was solid, he was structured. And for me, he did a wonderful job in that role. And Saliba gets my 100% respect. So, where do we go with both teams for the final day of the season? United have, of course, Brighton away from home. Arsenal host Everton in a potential title decider. Obviously, United still have an FA Cup final to look forward to. We will be covering that game here on Chall Chats, so stay tuned for that one, as well as coverage of the final day of the Premier League. So that will be coming as well. It will be a double header on that Sunday next coming up this in this upcoming week, because of course we'll have the League Two playoff final. We've got the League One playoff final the day before. The Championship final will be coming up as well. We've got all three European finals, and we also got the final day of the Premier League. And you know what? Depending what happens on Tuesday, we're going to be covering either one of City or Arsenal's games. So we will be keeping an eye probably on both of them, but we'll just see on that one. I think that's going to be a case of potentially just deciding who's tops the league on the final day and who do we go to. Maybe we do the Arsenal game, maybe we do the City game. Obviously, Arsenal, like I said, they've got Everton on the final day. United have Brighton away before they have City in the FA Cup final. So City could come out of this season with a Premier League and an FA Cup, 4 Premier Leagues in a row and an FA Cup. So for me, I think City could still have a decent season out of this, picking up 2 trophies. So I think it's going to be very, very interesting. We may keep an eye on Liverpool's final game as well, because obviously it's Jurgen Klopp's farewell. We'll probably do like a historical piece on Jurgen Klopp before the end of this week, so fingers crossed, stay tuned for that one just in case. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be it. Arsenal move on. They top the league going into the midweek. Tottenham face City on Tuesday. Villa have Liverpool on the Monday. Villa win, City win. Villa have Champions League, and City hold the league going into the final day of the season. Thank you very much for watching this video. Make sure you do like, comment, subscribe. And for now, I am the CHALL. Ta-ra for now, and that's full time.